One of the ironies of life that I've always shared with my daughter is the fact that teenage drivers are in such a hurry and old drivers poke around like they have all the time in the world. My daughter just turned 16 years old, and I made a presentation of some basic things her and her friends should learn to mitigate their exposure to car accidents or worse. Over 3,000 U.S. teens die each year in car crashes. That's the equivalent of a commercial jet loaded with teenagers crashing once every other week for an entire year. It's not the flight you want to be on. Think for a second how many future leaders we lose who could have benefited society in unimaginable ways. Think for a second how different the world would look if Martin Luther King had died in an accident when he was a teen, or Cesar Chavez, or your favorite teacher, or, worse yet, your mom or your dad. Motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death amongst 15 to 20-year-olds, and a 16-year-old driver is 4 times more likely than a 25-year-old to have an accident. Think about how quick it can all end by not following a few principles that will make you a safer driver. Using your turn signal is one of the easiest ways to stay safe. Remember, the primary function of a turn signal, though, is to tell other drivers what you're going to do, not what you've already done. It was found that 25% of drivers don't signal when turning and 48% don't when changing lanes. Using your turn signal is one of the primary ways that we communicate with other drivers while we're in our cars. And it creates a safer trip for all drivers involved when you merely tell others what you're intending to do. We've heard all of the warnings about texting and driving, but imagine putting a blindfold on for 5 seconds while you're driving. It's really what you're doing while you're texting. The statistics speak for themselves, as do the possible consequences involved. Get up and walk around the room with your eyes closed for 5 seconds. Did you run into furniture, accidentally kick Fido? Was it scary not seeing where you were going? That was 5 seconds walking. Imagine being in a 2,000-pound car at 55 miles an hour while doing that. Wait, you are if you're texting and driving. In plain terms, when you're texting, you're 23 times more likely to get into a crash. If you get into a crash, you may die. That's the unfortunate truth. At the very least, your auto insurance will rise to the point where driving may no longer be possible. Having your radio loud is another dangerous activity that should be avoided. We usually reserve loud noises as dire warnings in the form of emergency vehicles, tornado sirens, or horns on other cars. If your radio is too loud, you can't hear those warnings, which was designed to save lives. Speeding. Use the Goldilocks principle when determining your speed. Don't go too fast or too slow. Both extremes cause hazards for yourself and others. For you, the speeding ticket, the average cost of a ticket's about $150. Faster you're driving over the speed limit, the more your ticket will be. The other thing that'll affect you is higher insurance premiums. Speeding's a moving violation not looked kindly upon by insurers. Your rates can go up 13 to 25% even with one ticket. Conversely, if you're a good driver, your rates could fall as much as 20%. When changing lanes, always check your blind spot, which is an area just behind your car that you can't see with your peripheral vision or your side mirror. You have to turn your head towards the lane you're turning into to see if your car is already in the place you want to be. Look at the illustration that shows all of the bike riders that are in a tracker's blind spot. You can't see them. Turning to look at the lane next to you while also using your turn signal makes you drive safer and more enjoyable for you and those driving by you. Ask yourself, who do you prefer driving next to? Someone who weaves in and out without regard for others, or those that are safe drivers? We're all in this together. The next area of concern is a four-way stop. This is a pretty simple process, but it's abused. If you're there first, you go first. Take turns, just like when we were kids. If you weren't there first, you shouldn't go first. Cheating just messes up the whole process and everyone has to start over. Be attentive to making driving more efficient. When you're at the front of the line, firsties, we as a society have one expectation for you. Pay attention to the light and go when it's green. Every 3 seconds that you delay means 3 cars don't make the light behind you, and it just clogs everything up, making more traffic for everyone to deal with. That leads me to my next point. Being a considerate driver does not make you weak, and being an inconsiderate driver does not make you tough. Driving's like a team sport. The more the team acts in each other's best interests, the better the team functions. Driving is not an individual sport. Part of being a responsible driver is not to make your problems other people's problems. If you miss a turn, go around the block safely. Don't try and cross 3 lanes of traffic to make up for the mistake that you made. It shouldn't affect everybody else. One of the best ways to not be in a hurry on the road is to leave the house 5 minutes early. Try it and see how relaxed you are without having to get frustrated at every red light, stop sign, and railroad crossing you get stopped at. Chill with your coffee, get to your destination relaxed, and be dialed in for your day. The tips I provided you in this presentation can make driving safer for you and those around you, possibly saving your life. They require little effort, and with practice they'll become routine. Have fun driving, but don't panic. Be prepared.